Hi everyone, Susan Storm here, and today I want to talk about how ISTJs experience stress, what types of things create stress for them, how they respond to stress, and what they can do about it. If you're not sure who I am, I'm the founder of a website called psychologyjunkie.com, where I've written over 1,000 articles about the 16 Myers-Briggs personality types as well as the 9 Enneagram types. I'm also a certified MBTI practitioner. So first off, let's talk about what ISTJs are like when they're not stressed, just so you can get an idea of what they're like at a normal level of operating. ISTJs at a normal, everyday level of operating are generally very thorough, detailed, careful people. They like having a plan. They like knowing what to expect. They like consistency and stability. And they create consistency and stability in their communities by recalling age-old lessons from the past and wisdom from the past and replicating that in the present moment. They also look at what works, what's rational, how to create an organized structure in order to achieve a particular objective. They're very good at organizing the details and the logistics in order to get something done. ISTJs are also very much driven by their personal values. Even though they may not seem really emotional or sensitive on the outside, they have a strong sense of right and wrong that's very personal to them, and they usually will use that to back up all of their decisions. So they care about the logic, they care about objectivity, they care about common sense and reason and stability and structure, and they also care about staying aligned with what they personally believe is right and wrong. ISTJs are usually very careful about facts and details. They're concerned with upholding their responsibilities. They want people to feel like they can count on them, that they can depend on them. They usually very much believe in following through on their word. They're very careful about what they say. They're usually people of few words, so what they say really matters, and what they say, they really believe in it. They want what they're saying to be reasonable. They want it to be factual. They want it to make sense. And they also want other people to know that they can 100% count on them to do what they said they will do. Now, what creates stress for ISTJs? Because ISTJs like stability, they like consistency, they like knowing what to expect. A situation that is very chaotic or a life that is very unpredictable creates a huge amount of stress for them. If you're the kind of person who likes to know that every Sunday you're going to wake up at this time and have this breakfast, and you are going to have this much time to yourself, and that every Monday you're going to go to work and get these particular tasks done, and you've curated your life to be very routine, and you've curated your life to be very consistent so that you can do your best work and do your best thinking, then if you live with a bunch of people who are all about spontaneity and who run on impulse or who have chaotic emotions that just uproot the flow of everything, then you're going to experience a lot of stress. Now, everyone might in that situation, but ISTJs will even more so because stability and calm and consistency is so important to them. So dealing with a lot of chaos, a lot of disruption, a lot of unpredictability can feel really overwhelming for them. Even surprises that are meant to be positive can feel really overwhelming to them because they like to know what to expect. In the workplace, they get really stressed when they have to deal with people who are sloppy, who are incompetent, who are unreliable, who are careless with the facts and the details. If they give someone a job to do and they hand it back and a lot of the details are wrong and they have to go in and fix things, that's really stressful for them. And again, this would be stressful for almost anyone, but it's especially so for ISTJs because they are so attentive to details. They are so aware of the facts. They are very thorough. So when people are sloppy with the details, people that they have to work with especially, then that can create a whole lot of stress for them. Another thing that creates stress for ISTJs is having to deal with a lot of noise and a lot of sensory disruption. ISTJs tend to be highly attuned to their senses, and so a lot of sensory intensity can feel really overwhelming to them. Loud noises, a lot of movement and motion in their eyesight. These kinds of things can really overstimulate them very quickly. Another thing that creates stress is really vague or poorly defined goals. If they're in school as a child and they're given a project, but they're not given enough specificity and they're not given a clear goal or objective, they're given kind of a vague, abstract idea that they have to fulfill on, then that can be really stressful for them because the ISTJ really wants the specifics, they want the facts, they want to know exactly what is required and exactly what is expected. And this follows through into the workplace as well. If their leadership is really vague, if they're really unclear, maybe they throw out an idea and then throw out 12 other ideas and they're like, oh, make this non-specific vague goal a reality. Well, then the ISTJ can get very stressed about that. They really like to have clarity about what is expected and what the standards and rules are. Another thing that creates stress for ISTJs is being asked to wing it or improvise. That kind of thing, major stress point for them. If they're working through their day and they thought it was going to go one way, and then someone's, oh, hey, by the way, quickly, could you give a speech for this group of people in the workplace? Could you just tell them how this thing works? They're like, I didn't prepare for it. I didn't write a speech. I don't have it organized in my head mentally. I was on this lane going this direction. And now you're asking me to pull off on the side and go running through the woods. And I don't know what I'm doing. And that just creates a huge amount of stress. Do not just suddenly throw something at them to do. Now, sometimes life demands that anyway. We all have times where we just have to improvise. And ISTJs know that. But in general, they will be much happier if you can give them a heads up or a warning or let them know ahead of time what's going to happen. Now let's talk about how ISTJs respond to stress. We're going to start first by talking about how ISTJs respond to everyday stress, what their natural coping mechanism is. For ISTJs, when they encounter everyday stress, their first action is going to be to appear more true to type. They're going to try to get into their dominant function of introverted sensing, which is very much focused on what's worked in the past, or reflections from the past, or routines, traditions, and memories. And so, how this can look is if an ISTJ is experiencing, say, a high workload, then they're going to think back to the past of what did I do before when I experienced a high workload? Or what did someone I trust tell me about what to do when I experience a high workload? Or what kind of a structure or routine can I set up so I can accomplish this workload in a very careful, detailed, but also efficient way? They might dig into the details of the workload to try to get all the answers, to try to get everything figured out and to understand everything with as much clarity as they possibly can. Or say an ISTJ is experiencing relationship stress. Their spouse seems unhappy with them in some way. They might look back on what did I do last time my spouse seemed unhappy? What details are the same now as they were then? The devil's in the details. What am I missing in the details that I've learned from in the past not to do? Oh, I get it. I forgot to wash the dishes last night. Maybe that's what I need to do to fix this problem. So when you're using introverted sensing to try to solve stress, you're often looking to the past for clues and details that would help you in the present situation. You also will often rely on traditions or routines that have helped you in the past. So if you in the past felt a lot better in a stressful situation when you watched a particular comedy show, then you might decide, oh, I'm really stressed. Maybe I just need to kick back and watch The Office or something like that. Now, obviously, that wouldn't work for every single type of stress. Like if you have a big project at work, they're going to try to solve the problem. But if it's a stress that's more abstract that they can't really put their finger on or solve right away, they might have a special routine or tradition that they rely on to help them reach equilibrium again. Now, what happens if stress is ongoing? What happens if it just isn't getting solved with introverted sensing? Or what happens if it's really extreme? Or the ISTJ is really sleep deprived, or they're sick, so everything feels even worse than usual. This is when we're moving past everyday stress into what's called grip stress. What is grip stress? Grip stress is what happens when you have been over relying on your dominant function or even your second function to solve everything to the point that those functions wear out and your inferior function takes the wheel. Now, if you don't know what functions are, that's okay. I'll explain. The functions are basically the mental tools you use to understand the world, to make perceptions, and also to make judgment calls. Every personality type in the Myers-Briggs system has four primary cognitive functions as well as four shadow functions, which are more unconscious. The top two functions in your stack are the ones that you rely on most. They feel the most natural to you. You don't really have to put a lot of conscious effort into using them. Whereas your lower functions, particularly your fourth function and the functions in your shadow, feel extremely draining to use. You feel more vulnerable and insecure when you're using them, and you wear out faster. So for ISTJs, the dominant function is introverted sensing, which we just talked about. It's recalling lessons from the past and applying them to the present. It's paying attention to the details. It's creating rituals and routines and traditions that create a sense of consistency and calm in your life. The inferior function for ISTJ is extroverted intuition. This function is in many ways the antithesis to introverted sensing, but it's really the other side of the same coin. You need both to be a healthy ISTJ. Extroverted intuition is all about thinking outside the box, exploring new pathways, finding new possibilities and ideas, and discovering connections. So, an ISTJ tends to not really put a lot of energy into extroverted intuition because it feels unreliable when compared to introverted sensing, which is very grounded in facts and details and past experience. So what happens is extroverted intuition for many ISTJs stays in a fairly immature level of development. So when ISTJs are experiencing grip stress, where that inferior function takes the wheel because they've worn out their top functions, when extroverted intuition takes the wheel, it comes out in kind of an immature, irrational, extreme, childish way. This is how that can look. When an ISTJ is in the grip of their inferior function, all of a sudden they can be overwhelmed by negative possibilities of all of the things that could go wrong. And what's happening is that inferior extroverted intuition is now in charge, but instead of seeing positive possibilities, it floods the ISTJ with negative possibilities. And so they get very scattered, they feel very panicky, they can get into a catastrophic mode where they just got to fix everything. But the minute they start trying to fix one thing, their mind reminds them of another thing that could go wrong, and they just get completely overwhelmed and drowned out in these negative possibilities. Another thing that can happen with ISTJs in the grip is that they just lose their normal signature focus. Normally, ISTJs are extremely focused. They know what they need to do and they put all their energy into doing it. They're very careful with the details. In this case, when an ISTJ is in the grip, they lose that focus. They get easily distracted by things going on around them. They're not really sure what they should do. They just know that they have a million different ideas playing before their mind, and they start second guessing themselves. They're like, oh, wait, what did I do before that worked? Wait, but I should try a new thing. And so they try the new thing, but then like, well, this might not work. I should try this other thing. And so they end up feeling very scattered. They feel indecisive. They feel frustrated and flustered. As you can imagine, this is extremely stressful for them. Now, what can ISTJs do about this type of stress? One thing that I need to say is that if you know an ISTJ, if you're watching this because you're in a relationship with an ISTJ, or you have an ISTJ in your family, when they're in the grip, the last thing you should do is try to brainstorm with them. What will happen if you do that is that will amp up their stress really fast because they're already in the grip of extroverted intuition. So if you throw more extroverted intuition at them in the form of brainstorming or coming up with other ideas, then it's just going to make things even worse. So definitely don't do that. And even when there's everyday stress, try not to do that because that can also just push them further into the grip. Or if they weren't in the grip, then now they are because they were trying to use extroverted intuition when they weren't in a healthy state of mind. Another thing that you shouldn't do if you're an ISTJ and you're in the grip of extroverted intuition is just stay in that place of catastrophizing and seeing all the things that could go wrong. Try to get away from all the commotion, try to get away from everyone and everything for a minute and just calm yourself down and be alone with your own breathing and your own body and focus on the physical first. I always say focus on the physical first because so much of stress and anxiety is physical. And if you're trying to take care of everything cognitively, but you're not dealing with your breathing and your body, then you can just end up going in a loop that leads to nowhere. So if you're an ISTJ and you are stressed, whether with everyday stress or grip stress, one thing that you should do is focus on your breathing. First, get away from everyone. You can do box breathing. You can do the 4-7-8 technique where you inhale for 4 seconds, hold your breath for 7, and exhale for 8. There's many different breathing exercises you can easily find that will help you. And if it's too complicated, just focus on breathing in really deeply and breathing out really fully. And doing this can actually tell your brain that, hey, I'm not running away from a lion right now, or I'm not about to fall off the roof of a skyscraper right now. When you're really feeling a lot of stress, your brain starts thinking that you are in danger, and this amps up everything. And by regulating your breathing, it's telling your brain, hey, my life isn't at risk right now, so you can back off a little bit. So this is a really helpful thing to do right away, is just to focus in on your breathing. You can also try stretching your body. Many times that stress is held as tension in your body. So stretch your arms, stretch your legs, lean down, touch your toes, reach up to the sky, stretch your body. This can also help to reduce the physical stress that you're feeling. Another thing that you can do is write down a list of times you've overcome similar situations before. Sometimes what you need after a period of taking care of your physical body is reminders that you can do this, reminders that this kind of situation, this threat has happened before and you've been able to get through it. So take a pen, take a piece of paper, and just write down times that you have overcome from the past. Also, organizing something small and simple can help you. If there's a drawer in your house that's been bothering you, like a junk drawer. Just take everything out and categorize it and organize it. And as you're doing it, practice that regular deep breathing. This process can help you to feel a little bit more calm, a little bit relaxed. You're not doing anything too daunting that requires a whole lot of heavy duty thinking. You're just accomplishing one small, simple task, and this can really help you to feel a bit better. Another thing that ISTJs have talked to me about is that when they can process their feelings alone without any fear of anyone judging them or observing them, that's also helpful. So I know an ISTJ who drives while listening to sad music. They have a specific playlist they put together for these times. And they drive around, they listen to sad music, they cry, they just get all their feelings out, and they don't want anyone around during this time. But this helps them to reach equilibrium, just that release of emotion. I've talked to many who involve music in some way, or they watch a sad movie that connects with them in some level and they're able to cry, they're able to get their feelings out. ISTJs, although they are thinking types and they're known for their calm sensibility, do have deeper emotions than many let on. And many times they don't feel like they have time or space or freedom to really get into their feelings because they tend to take on a lot of responsibilities. So having the freedom to just experience their emotions in real time without any fear of anyone watching them or judging them or telling them that they have to do some other thing or offering advice can be extremely therapeutic. If you are in a relationship with an ISTJ, I know I said let's not brainstorm with them or anything like that. Another thing they don't tend to like is being given unsolicited advice. When they're stressed, that unsolicited advice can make everything feel even worse, and it's usually not helpful. They're not usually in a frame of mind where that feels really effective. So definitely wait until they're past that really big storm of stress to get into that advice giving place. And even then, ask them if they even want advice, because many times they're already troubleshooting on their own and more advice isn't even necessary. Another way that you can help support an ISTJ in stress is by helping them with their projects. If they're stressed and you know it and you can tell they're overwhelmed, maybe you might also sense that the dishes need to be done and you go wash the dishes. Even though it might be their turn to wash the dishes, you doing that small act of service can help them to just release a little bit of the tension going on with them. Now, what can ISTJs do so that when they are stressed, they don't get into this catastrophizing mode? What can they do so they don't become so scattered and so overwhelmed by negative possibilities and pessimism and this kind of sort of ungrounded, scattered state? One of the reasons that grip stress can be so destructive is that we tend to avoid using our inferior function or respecting it. We put most of our energy as humans into our top two functions. So for ISTJs, they spend the majority of their time focusing on what works, lessons from their past, creating stability and continuity. They don't spend as much time brainstorming, theorizing, dealing with concepts, looking for relationships between things, or getting really theoretical and abstract. So because they don't spend much time in this, extroverted intuition tends to stay in a fairly immature level of development. So when it comes up, it's not operating in a mature way. It's operating in this more extreme all or nothing way. One of the ways that ISTJs can have healthier grip reactions is to give their extrovert intuition a little time to breathe every day when they're operating at low level of stress or no stress. So this can look like, instead of doing something the same way you've always done it, asking yourself, what's a new way I could do this? Instead of having my coffee in my office every Sunday morning, maybe I should go drive to my local park and have the coffee there and watch the sunrise. It could be just like questioning the routines you do without thinking and trying them in a new way. Now, I wouldn't suggest doing a lot of this all at once. Otherwise, it can be overwhelming and it can actually push you into a grip stress phase. What you want to do is just take tiny little moments and practice it without a lot of pressure when you're already feeling okay. It can also look like being more open-minded to a person or an idea that you might have closed off in the past. So, say you have a strong political opinion about something, you could listen to an argument from someone who has a different perspective and look for if there's any connections or relationships between those ideas and actually entertain an idea that you might have automatically shut down in the past. It could be being curious about possibilities or about something abstract. Like, what would happen if I went after this crazy dream that I never thought I could do before? Thinking outside the box. dreaming up possibilities, brainstorming, trying things in new ways, exploring new concepts or new ways of seeing things. These are all ways that you can experiment with extroverted intuition. But again, don't feel like you have to do this all at once or this huge amount of effort. Just start small and go from there. The more you make space for extroverted intuition, the more of a healthy ISTJ you can become. You experiment more, you explore more, and you develop more experiences that you can use to strengthen your introverted sensing, which is all about using those experiences to learn and grow in the future. If you would like to know more about ISTJs, I've written many more articles about them on my website at psychologyjunkie.com. I'll post a few links in the description. If you have any questions, be sure to leave those in the comments and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. If you would like help clarifying your personality type, but you're not really sure whether you're an ISTJ or an ISTP or an ISTJ or an INTJ or whatever it is, you can also set up a type clarification session with me. I would love to sit down with you one-on-one through a Zoom session and answer your questions about type and go through a guided interview process where I can help you to find your best fit personality type. I've been an MBTI practitioner for almost 10 years now. I've been doing this for a long time, and I love to help people who are feeling any confusion in that area to get clarity. If you'd like to know more about your ISTJ cognitive functions, you can also set up a cognitive function deep dive session with me where I can teach you all about what introverted sensing means, what extroverted thinking is for you, what introverted feeling is for you, all of that stuff. If you've been hearing these terms thrown around a whole bunch in different videos and you're like, I don't even know what that means, or I'm not clear on it, I would love to help you to understand that and also answer any questions you might have. I'm there for you, and this is one of my favorite parts of my job. So definitely reach out to me if you're looking for something like that. As always, like and subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this. I'll see you all next time. Bye, everyone.